About a week ago, I picked up this four-wheeler on Facebook Marketplace for the low price of $1,300. I actually picked it up in a package deal with a smaller snowmobile, but if you take out the value of that snowmobile, this thing costed me $1,300. This is a 2014 Suzuki King Quad 750 AXI. The previous owner could not figure out what was wrong with it. So he knew basic knowledge of how engines run. You know, he got the fuel, the spark, the compression. He tested it for spark, which it had. Replaced spark plugs like any first person would do just to check things out. He replaced the fuel pump, which was actually a pretty big job, I think, for him. It's underneath the wheel well in here. He also replaced the fuel injector, and none of that worked for him. So he sold it to me for $1,300, knowing that it could be potentially a bigger issue. And I did all my diagnosing. I actually lied. He didn't put the fuel injector in there. He gave it to me to try. He was going to try it, but then he decided to sell. So the fuel injector came in this little box, and I already put that in. So the brand new fuel injector did not make a difference. Our fuel pump is pumping fuel well. I took off the fuel line from the fuel rail, and we're getting really good flow out of that line. I also turned on the key while having the injector out of it, and it sprays fuel. So when you're cranking it sprays fuel. So fuel is not our problem, and nor is spark, because it had a really good spark. So that only led me to one more option, and that was compression. I put my compression tester on it, and my compression tester did not make a good seal against the cylinder head. Okay, there's a spark plug hole. It's a very small hole, so my compression tester didn't make a good seal. So I wasn't able to get a good test on this thing. It does have two spark plugs, but I also could not get a seal on the other hole either. So I went and purchased a leak down tester from Harbor Freight. The Maddox cylinder leak down tester. Hooked that up to it, charged it with 100 PSI at top dead center on the engine. Using timing hole in there, you can figure out timing. And it was timed, and it was at top dead center. And we're getting a lot of leakage, not out of the throttle. Being out of the throttle, that would tell me it was a intake valve, not sealing. We weren't getting any leakage out of the exhaust, and being out of the exhaust, it would tell me it was an exhaust valve leakage. But we were getting a lot of air leaking out of the oil fill hole and the crankcase breather. There, and this hose right in here. What that told me is air was leaking past the cylinder, leaking past the piston rings. So I went ahead and started tearing into it, and that's where I am right now. I have all the parts on the table, as well as the head, the cam gears, you know, all the stuff you have to get off in order to get to the cylinder head and cylinder and piston. So from what I understood from reading online forums and such, these engines are supposed to be very reliable and very indestructible. So when I took out this piston and figured out that it was my problem, it was very surprising to me. So I don't know if you can see that, but that piston ring looks pretty normal right there. As soon as you come over to the side, that is not normal for a piston to look like that. The top ring is completely embedded into the metal, and this is very scored up on the edge there. So this piston is not in good condition. And the other problem was the wrist pin hole is like an oval. Should not be that much play in that hole. Should be more like this, where it's just tight in there. So this piston is in very poor condition. Luckily, to my surprise, the cylinder is not too bad. You have your usual scoring from 3,500 miles of use. If you can feel it with your fingernail, it's a good indicator that it's too far and you want to get that thing honed out. I can barely feel these with my fingernail. They're very visible, but they're not very prominent when you feel it. So these are definitely savable just with a simple cylinder honing, as well as a new rebuild kit. I picked this up from Parts Giant. This is a Nomura, I think that's how you pronounce it, Nomura piston top end rebuild kit for this four-wheeler. This is the whole gasket kit here. It comes with all the gaskets you need to do a top end rebuild, as well as in this little case here. In this little case you get the piston rings and the circlips for the wrist pin, as well as the wrist pin. And this little fancy little holder there. Then we take this out. And we got the piston. That looks a little better, huh? She's fresh. So this looks like a nice piston. And this whole kit was only $200. So that brings our total up to $1,500 for this four-wheeler. I know we have a couple more expenses. We're gonna have like a seat cover and one CV axle. And that's gonna cost me about $90. So far we're up to $290 on this machine. I think when I get it in all back together, it'll be worth about $4,000. So that'll be $1,600 into it. That'll be a $2,400 profit if I can sell for that much, which I think I can. That even seems like the low end of what these are go for. These are very top dollar machines. People want these a lot. I don't see many around here, so I don't know if the market's high around here, but even if I get $3,200 for it, you know, that's still a good profit. So we're gonna go ahead and get this top end rebuilt and see what we can go from there. I'm gonna do a little valve job on this because why not? And just because it's been a lot of miles and it's good to do a valve job on it. But for today, I can get this thing honed out and get the piston put on to the crank of the engine. So I'm gonna bring this piston in here. Cylinder, sorry. I couldn't quite fit both of these orange things on there, but I got one with a rag protecting that. So I got it at an angle there. And here's the tool I got to hone it out. EWK piston cylinder honing tool. So the rule of thumb with this is you never want to come out more than half the width of the stone. So it actually is going to remove a little bit of metal, and it's going to show you where the high and low spots are. You want to keep oiling it up as you go, but you can't really... by the way, my rebuild kit actually accounts for 2 extra thousandths of an inch, so it accounts for you honing out the cylinder. We actually have bigger issues. So looking at this cylinder, looks pretty good all the way around, except this top 1/4 inch, I'd say. There is a big nick in that right there. So I'm actually sending this off to Millennium Technologies, and they're a company out of Wisconsin. And the program I'm doing is their core exchange program. So you basically send them your damaged cylinder, and before they even maybe receive this, you'll already have one that they sent you. So basically you're sending yours in for a refund on the core. That works pretty good for me because I can get a new cylinder within a few days, and they'll send back a perfectly refinished one. And I even added in the notes to make it 0.02 millimeters bigger because my top end rebuild kit adds 2 thousandths or hundredths or whatever you call it. So that's gonna be how that works. So the total it cost me was $564, but the core refundable charge is $254. So it's about $310 to get this done. I'm just gonna throw this in the box, and hopefully we'll know it's my order. So that right there is gonna split this video into 2 parts. I'm going to make a second part on the entire rebuild process. Hopefully it will only be 2 parts, and you guys will see this thing start up in the next video. But I don't know what the future is gonna look like, or even if I'll know where all these parts go back on. I'm just kidding, I'll probably figure it out. But it's gonna take some precision, getting all this stuff put together and torqued to spec, and piston put back on the rod. Being as this hole here was ovaled out, I was concerned that my rod would be ovaled out as well, but it is not. So that's good. There's absolutely no play when you put that wrist pin in there, so that's good to see. But that's gonna be about it for this video. If you enjoyed, give it a like, and if you really enjoyed, subscribe to my channel. Thanks a ton for watching. If I'm lucky, I'll catch you in the next one.